And on my YISD, it's good evening and welcome to the Ysleta Independent Schools District Special Board Meeting by video conference of the Board of Trustees. We invite you to share your comments with the board during the public comment portion of our meeting. Citizens input electronic sign up shows the rules for participating at the link provided in the electronic posting notice of our meeting. Legally, the board may listen but may not enter into discussion or on the issue raised. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is called to order at 6:02. We have a quorum with Mr. Soltero Ramirez, Mr. Mike Rosales,
Here.
Courtney Woodruff, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. I think Mr. Shane Haggerty is going to join us here.
He has joined us already.
Okay, so we have, oh, there he is. All right. And Trustee Bustillos could not be with us tonight. He is excused. Trustee Lucero, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And now for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucero. Ms. Mathewson, do we have any citizens input?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, thank you so much. Tonight, we're here for one action item, and it's the extension of a start of a year transition period regarding on-campus instruction due to COVID-19 local conditions. Is there any discussion? Mr. Ramirez.
Yes, sir. I'm appreciative of the fact that TEA gave us a couple of more weeks. And Dr. Latore, I have several questions for you. The first one being, I see that some of the other districts in Region 19 are still pursuing their December close dates or return to school dates. Based on everything that your staff has told me, that's just not a viable thing. This is going to be a 1-2 week extension each time. Is that correct?
Yes, the longest extension that has been approved to date is 3 weeks, and the reason they were given 3 weeks is because they already had students in the building. And I want to say that it's either Tornillo or Sanelli. Which one is it, Brenda?
I believe it was Tornillo.
So for whatever reason, they received 3, we've received 2. I believe that both of the large neighboring school districts, as well as Canutillo, know that there is no extension that will get them through to December. And TEA has been a little bit resistant to give the extension. Although I will say that given the latest numbers, especially over the last 2 weeks, it may have something to do with a meeting that we have with Commissioner Morath at 8 o'clock. We have one at 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, and then he has that same meeting with all of the TUC, or the Texas Urban Council, at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, and I think it'll probably be redundant, but I'm looking forward to that meeting to see what the commissioner is thinking. But at present, I think the only thing that's true is that the neighboring districts haven't come out and informed their community that there is no such thing as an extension through December at this time.
Okay, I know El Paso notified their folks today or over the weekend that they're going to do a November 9th thing.
That's consistent with ours.
Okay, yeah, with our return and or with their return back to school, and assuming I don't know, based on the numbers, we had what 550 today or for the reported this
500,
morning. So
555, 12% positivity rate, 33%, I believe, hospitalization. It's pretty dire.
yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen, and also too, I'm kind of wondering if the election is not playing a role in this, and so um, I don't know, I'm thinking about that. Um, Dr. Latorre, is it your intention, if our COVID status in the community remains the same, to ask for another extension again, if at all possible?
Yeah, we'll fight like hell. If we're still sitting on numbers that look like what we've experienced the last 2 weeks, I think we owe it to the community to go back and try and demonstrate to Governor Abbott and Mike Morath that it is no safer. I mean, there is no magic date. I don't know why extensions rely on magic dates. We said that we're going to anchor everything we do to our criteria, our indicators. If it's in 2 weeks, if it's the way it is today, that would be a deviation from what we've been telling the community and the public. And so I think I'd be compelled on behalf of the board and the district to really fight to get them to reconsider and perhaps give us an additional 2-week extension or 3-week extension, depending on the data.
Okay, and I watch via TASB, all the things that are going around across the state, and they're real quick to share pictures and videos and stuff like that of things that are happening. Other parts of Texas, it looks like everything is over. It's done for, and they've moved on, which I find interesting. Um, Along that line, and by the way, I agree with you. I don't know how you can put a date to something, especially if we don't know what's going to happen next, and until we get out of these triple digits, until people, you know, wear the mask, do the social distancing, all those things like that, we're not going to get better as a community, and we still have a flu season approaching us. Um, I am, I'm kind of curious though. Um, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm kind of curious, why do we continue to do sports across the entire state, especially in our region? Why do we continue to do sports? And I know that's not a popular question,
No, it's okay.
based on well, I'm not worried about it, I've already had lots of discussions with people, and I understand how passionate they are about sports, but it doesn't make any sense to me to have this percentage that we continue to pursue, especially the contact sports. So why are we continuing to do that? Can we talk about that, sir?
Sure. So given the optics, one would see it as I think, and rightfully so, as a walking contradiction. You're starting to reconsider the opening of schools. You're anchoring all of your decisions to data. I think the last time that we looked at data directly tied to our student athletes, our positivity rate came in at just over 0.05. So I think it demonstrates that either because of the things that we've put in place and you've put in place, because of the testing, because of the limited number of spectators and others, I don't believe that high school athletics have demonstrated or risen to the level of super spreaders. One might argue that they may in fact be in the safest environment in our community, given the numbers. So going into the double digit, when it comes to student athletes testing positive for COVID, you're less than 1%, you're hovering around 0.5, 0.6 of 1%. And so those numbers indicate that we're doing that in a relatively safe environment. We have had a number of student athletes test positive. When we administered the testing last week, I believe we discovered 3 student athletes, but given the number of student athletes that are participating, and by that I mean practicing, playing, spending time together, it doesn't appear that that population is as vulnerable as the population that's really initiating the spike in numbers that we're seeing around the community. Now, I will tell you that there have been conversations among the superintendents that are consistent with your concern, and that is that we seem to be talking out of both sides of our mouth. On one end, we're ready to close everything down, and when we're preparing to potentially ask for an extension. On the other end, Friday Night Lights keep moving forward, and so do volleyball games. But if you apply the numbers to them in a separate and distinct way, one of them meets our standards, the other certainly does not. But for the general public, I don't think they know that we have a second set of data that we monitor on a daily basis to determine whether or not we can continue to participate. And it's a lot like what's happened in Texas, and that is they have in some way bifurcated responsibility. So the UIL has their agenda, TEA has their own agenda, and their agendas are not currently in alignment, unlike in California, where I understand they've canceled all fall and winter sports and they're going to try and make up in the spring. So I can understand why someone would say, wait a minute. By the same token, every week we're getting beat up, I hope you are not, by parents who believe that we're stealing their opportunity as parents to participate and support and get involved in their student athletes, in some cases last year of athletics. And so we've got that group out there. And again, we have to have something to go back to rather than I just didn't feel like having sports this week or I felt like having it. It's got to be tied to the numbers. And right now the numbers among our student athletes are well within what we would call the yellow zone or tier 1. They're actually close to tier 2, except that tier 2 in some way is driven by what's happening in the community, not just on the or on the court. But you're right, the optic is not good.
Oh, no, and I understand what you're saying. And you're right, our coaches, our teachers, our administrators have done an excellent job ensuring that the kids are staying safe. And being a high school athlete at one time, a coach told you to do something, you did it. So I would imagine that most of these kids are our students are behaving. The coaches are telling them, keep yourself healthy. Don't put yourself in a bad position. The problem is that, and I went back and kind of just looked around a little bit. CDC doesn't say if you have a smaller group, in this case athletes, who are healthier than the general population. CDC drives everything by just the total population. So to me, it's a contradiction. And then I've got that group of parents out there that are saying, you guys are asking for delays. You're not putting your teachers back in the classroom, but yet you want to play on Friday night. And I agree, that's a contradiction. That's problematic, and I agree with you on UIL and TEA observation. UIL, those guys, are those individuals, I don't know who they are. Those folks, they would play sports in a hurricane. They were so quick to get to everything. I don't understand that. And so I just want you to know I am getting some phone calls, not a lot, but I'm getting some phone calls, and by the way, I'm also getting those other phone calls and my favorite one has been how sports saved my life type thing. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the value of sports and the fine arts and what they do and keeping our students engaged in the process. But at the end of the day, the overall status of our community says we should not be gathering. Okay, we should not be having those kids get together. I don't know. I think at some point, especially if this continues and we continue to ask for extensions, I think that this is a conversation we have to have and ask the community to work with us on this, because I just think I don't know, I have grave concern about that. So
I think it's one of those things though that really have to happen in unison with all of the school districts in the region. If we take the pioneering spirit and go out and decide that we'd like to suspend or cancel the fall sports and neighboring districts do not, it could lead to losing students to other schools and other school districts who are going to forge ahead. Personally, I don't think that will happen. I think if anything, one of them or two of them or three of them who have discussed it will likely put us in a position where we can either continue to compete among ourselves in the YISD or follow suit and cancel the fall sports season, forfeit football and volleyball games, cross country, because that's the other thing that we have internally is that you've got, by the very nature of the sport, football's an easy target. Volleyball is less, provides a less vulnerable environment. You'll have a cross country program or programs that can easily maintain social distance. And you've had, one of our teams already travel to Arizona and win a very large, prestigious meet. And so people will look to us to at least apply common sense and to determine which fall sports do you plan to cancel or suspend, and which do you plan to allow to continue. And it will become, I think, a very complicated conversation. And by the way, winter sports started this week. And so we've got boys and girls basketball back on the court. We had them all tested late last week. And so as of late last week, they were COVID free, but they're back in the gyms, and wrestling is around the corner. Now you've got a completely new cohort of student athletes that are out there engaging with one another. And we'll have to monitor that. But, when the time comes, and it probably should come relatively soon, we probably need to have a workshop and share some numbers, or wait for Dr. Ocarranza, the CDC, to direct us to cease and desist when it comes to athletics. And I don't think they will. In talking to Dr. Ocarranza, when that question came up, he basically said, I have authority in working with the city to deal with the city leagues and close the parks and the gyms and things like that. But back to UIL, he's going to take a pass on that and let the UIL decide if and when that should happen. And the UIL loves and embraces the El Paso area, but probably not as much as they love and embrace the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, the Houston area, East Texas, Lubbock, and the Austin area. And that's just the reality. And they're all playing. So we're kind of tied to them unless we decide not to be.
I understand. I understand the dynamic, and I appreciate that from all different angles. But like I said, at the end of the day, the comment about you're not in the classroom, but you're in the football field, that's a little hard to defend. And so, but it's a different discussion. So I thank you very much, Dr. Latorre. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, President Ochoa.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Any other discussion? Ms. Lucero.
I just want to say that I appreciate the efforts from our superintendent and our executive staff last week doing the testing, and what I witnessed was it shook me a little bit, because we always talk about in education, academics and education, and this is our main priority, and obviously that's the case. But to see you all in your masks and your protective covering and your gear and out there and in the front line with testing our community and our student athletes and our teachers, I think that was extremely meaningful, and I really appreciated those efforts, and I know that you guys are also putting yourselves at risk And so that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me as a board member, and it meant a lot to my community. And I do appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And I also want to say that I'm extremely frustrated with TEA. I appreciate you all making all of the efforts necessary to make sure we get these waivers and to make sure that you're keeping our teachers and our employees safe. But I'm really frustrated that in August, the governor, and I quote, the governor said, "The bottom line is the people who know their communities best about our local school boards, not local governments, have the power to decide how to open schools this fall during the pandemic." And it really frustrates me that we have to jump through more hoops than the NBA in order to get these waivers, in order to keep our community safe. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. And I'm just venting my concerns to TEA. I want TEA to hear our voices. It's wrong. I believe we are doing what is right and what is best for our community to keep our community safe, not to keep kids out of the classroom. That's never been the goal, but to keep everybody safe. And so I would like to know, once this waiver is approved for the additional 2 weeks and our kids, if everything goes well or everything remains the same, let me ask, if everything remains the same, do we then have to ask for an additional 2-week waiver? Does it go every week if we ask for a waiver? How will it work after this?
Yeah, you'd have to ask TEA, assuming that it's even made available prior to the first week in November. At present, our waiver expires, and all students, or those students and families who want to send their students to school, are scheduled to return on November 6th. As such, we're scheduled to bring all of the faculty and staff on Friday, November 3rd for a 1-day orientation, get ready. If we want to pursue a waiver, we'd have to do it either early that week or late next week to try and get ahead of it. And they're becoming more and more reluctant to do that. I think it's very clear that their goal is to get faculty and staff back in schools and students back in the classroom, whether it's 30% of a school's student population or 10% of school's population. They want it to be available, and they want the faculty and staff on campus in their classroom delivering instruction in a synchronous, asynchronous, or face-to-face model. So today is Monday. We have about a week, probably a week and a couple of days to look at the data and decide whether or not we want to pursue that, if it's even available.
Well, we're going to have to figure something out, because I cannot see us bringing folks back when we're practically leading the country right now as a city with this pandemic and the amount of cases and hospitalizations we have. So hopefully we can figure that out. And I know we're in good hands, and you guys will make those necessary decisions as we go about.
We have a good relationship. It's not a matter of submitting forms. We talk to them directly. I can talk to Mike Morath on any given day, and he will give me a heads up on what we can or can't anticipate. And again, I think Wednesday, he's going to share the sort of the now what, because things don't seem to be slowing down. And that'll give me more information. And what I'll do is I'll get something out to you this weekend so you can know what his meeting was all about.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lucero. Any further discussion? I appreciate everybody's comments. I think we're all on board on what our concerns are. And we'll just have to wait day for day. I mean, that's the way it's been since we started with this. But I appreciate everybody's patience and support during this this terrible time for everyone. Okay, if there's no further discussion, may I have a motion? May I have a motion?
Mr. President, this is Connie Woodruff.
We have a
I
motion
move-
by Ms. Woodruff, go ahead.
I move to approve the extension of the start of the year transition period regarding on-campus instruction due to the COVID-19 local conditions.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Rosales seconds. Okay. Trustee Ramirez, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Rosales, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Trustee Woodruff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Lucero, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Haggerty, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, Trustee Ochoa, vote yes. Results are in, 6 in favor. All right. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, adjourn.
Enjoy your evening. I'll circle back with you in a couple of days.
Okay,
guys.
thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.